Is it a struggle? Yes, we have to realize our strengths and our weaknesses. Hi, and welcome to YYNet, and I'm your host, Janice. We're helping others to reach their goals by interviewing impactful people with great topics, and so you can get from ordinary to extraordinary. So welcome back. Today we have a great topic. It is women in leadership. And we have a wonderful, wonderful business lady. Her name is Nina Smith. She's going to talk to you about her role in the corporate world and give us tips on how other women can assume roles of leadership and get ahead in life and in business. Welcome to the show, Nina. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Janice, for having me. I'm pretty excited about spending some time and just sharing some of my life experiences.
Yes, that is exactly what we want to hear. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your current role and company?
So I grew up in Chicago, actually. I grew up in Robbins, Illinois, graduated from Eisenhower High School and went down to Illinois State for college.
Oh, wow. My
I-
daughter went there. That's what I was like,
yeah.
wow.
And I started off as a psychology major. And 2 years into it, I didn't really want to do the medical school thing. So I actually moved to California to be with my grandmother, moved here at the end of my second year. And then when I joined the university here, I actually went into business management. And coming out of the business management role, I got my first really big job. It was a fantastic job. It was with Xerox Corporation.
Oh, okay.
And I joined Xerox in the early 80s, always in the software and technology part of the business. I started in marketing. You'll find that I've been in marketing or marketing type roles my entire career. I was there for 20 years, and I will tell you that every 2 years, I had a different role. It was a company that was so ahead of themselves. In the early 80s, they had programs for women, they had programs for diversity, they had mentors. It was really just an organization that was just amazing. And I feel like over those 20 years, I got so much experience. I always say, I think I got like 3 or 4 master's degrees because I got so much experience. But I was always in technology, and they did this really amazing thing. 10 years into my career, they actually started a program that said they wanted to grow their own general managers. And I was selected to be a part of that program. And they literally pulled me out of the business for 1 year.
Okay.
I literally shadowed a division president who had a job running a $5 billion business. So I was learning on the job, if you will. And I came out of that role a year later, and I went into a general manager role running a software business, and it was about $350 million. And that was like 10 years in. And then coming out of that, I did that for a couple of years. Then I went back into pure marketing, and eventually I became the chief marketing officer of Xerox. And I left there 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And out of that, I decided, I'd learned so much there, and it was such an amazing experience that I actually wanted to see how a smaller company operated. There was 150,000 employees at Xerox, and it was quite amazing that I could grow a career so successfully with that many people. But I had such great mentors, I had such great sponsors in the company that it was just like, hey, I want to go and I want to give back. I want to give back to others, and I'd like to go to a smaller company. And I have to tell you a funny story. So, of course, in those days, 20 years with the company, I'm of the generation that, like our parents never left a job. And so my parents were like, you're doing what? You're leaving that company? That's crazy. Don't quit your job. Because I was at a really senior role at the company. But I wanted to give back, and I really wanted to see if I could join a smaller company, which I did. I joined a company called Sage Software, and I went in as their chief marketing officer. And about a year in, they started acquiring all these companies. And they
Oh,
acquired 17 companies in 7 years. You talk about
wow.
experience. Like I think about my career, it's all about this amazing experience that I got.
Mhm.
So during those 7 years,
Yeah.
I was doing the chief marketing officer role. And then I actually, they gave me the responsibility for all of North America in the company. So I did that and it was great. And then lo and behold, 7 years in, I get a call from a recruiter, and there was this really small company, and they like $100 million, and they had just acquired a new business, and they literally said to me, "Kate, would you come in and run this business?" And it was like a $30 million business. It was a small business,
Okay.
and so I did that, and that was Mitchell, and I've now been there for 14 years. And through that time, so I came in as a general manager, $30 million business. Today, that business is 300
Oh.
million.
Yeah, I was
And
going to say it's not a small company. So I'm like, you couldn't have been talking about Mitchell because they're a tiny, they weren't ever a tiny company, but they were. Wow.
yeah, so it was about 100 million then. The overall
Mm,
company, I came in to
mhm.
run like a $30 million part of the business.
Yes.
And I was a
Wow.
general manager. And I remember when I joined, people would say to me, why are you coming to this? Why are you coming? You've had all these big jobs, and it's like, I really do want to give back. I want to take all those years of
Mhm.
experience, and I just want to see if I can help another company to grow. And so, 14 years later, I am still there, and I took over another role as another part of the business. And then 2 years ago, we did a merger in 2018 of a like size
Okay.
company. We then did a big acquisition, and now we're a $1.7 billion business.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
so just being there through that whole growth. And so getting to my current job, I'm going to get there. About 2 years ago, after we did the merger and the acquisition, we had like 5 divisions, and I had always been running one of the divisions.
Mhm.
And so my boss, the CEO, came to me and said, "Hey, Nina, we'd like to take everything that's customer facing, whether it's marketing, whether it's customer service, whether it's sales, everything customer facing, we'd like to pull it out of the divisions, and we'd like for you to lead that." And
Mhm.
so, big job, right? Because with mergers and acquisitions, you bring in all these cultures together. And
Right.
so I've been doing that for about 2 years, and it's been quite the role. So my current role is president of customer and market operations. So
Wow.
just think of it as everything that's customer facing. And it really just allows us to go to market as one company, and all the products and services that we have. My team actually now sells and services all of those products and services. So long-winded answer, but that's just a little bit of a view of my now over 40-year career.
Oh, wow. That's a long, outstanding career, definitely. You moved
Yeah.
up in the company. Now, I was going to save this question for later, but it sounds like this was a pivotal moment in your life. The mentor program, it sounded like at Xerox, just totally changed your life. How important is it to have a mentor when you're in either a new field or in business?
Janice, I will tell you that it's probably one of the most important things. And for me, it's two things. It's really important to have a mentor, and it's really important to have a sponsor. People
Oh,
often say, like, how do I get in a company and how do I really grow? And so what's the difference? So a mentor is someone that, they've had great experience. They can share that experience. They can help you grow. And you kind of work with them. I mentor lots of people. So, I know the mentoring. And what's the difference in a sponsor? A sponsor are people in the company who basically sponsor you in your career. So there are people that say, hey, when we're looking at a new role, I want to look at Janice because Janice has done all this great work. So
mm,
think about them as your cheerleader. Think about them as the one that's going to make you aware that there's roles. Now, you can be a mentor and a sponsor of the same person, but think
okay.
about how powerful it is that you have in your company sponsors that are putting your name out there, that are coming to
Mhm.
say, hey, there's this role, Janice, that you should really go after. And let me tell you, I'll go and talk to someone and make them aware. That's the positive side. Now, what's the negative side? So sometimes in big companies, let's say that I was working on a project and the project didn't go well. And so, people like to take the negative and spread it. So if you're sitting in a conference room, and this actually happened during my career for someone that I was sponsoring, and they're like, oh, you don't want this person on your team because remember, she was on that project and she didn't do well on that project.
Oh.
As a sponsor, what did I do? I said, sorry, that was just one project. Let me tell you about all the other things that Janice did for the company and why I think she's the best person in the company. And Janice, there's so many roles in a company. There are so many people. And oftentimes people are like, I just can't get ahead. And that's why I think you need mentors who can problem solve with you and work through all of the things you're working on. And you really do need what I call our sponsors. So I actually have a paper, I should, share it with you at some point, where I really talk about mentors and sponsors and how it's important to have both.
Because I'm wondering, do you prefer having a mentor in a different company or in a different field what you're in? Like, so if you're in business financing versus business management.
Right. I think it helps to have mentors inside and outside of the company.
Okay.
And so, and the great thing is, like, I have a mentor that I've had for 35 years.
I was going to ask you that if you had a mentor.
I have several mentors, but the one I have for 35 years, guess what? He was the person that I shadowed for that 1 year before I became a division president myself.
Wow.
And so he actually has been my mentor all of these years, and he's retired 20 years ago, but I still call him. I still call him with business issues, and we have really great conversations. Now, why is that valuable? Because he's seen me in the workplace. He knows exactly how I operate. And I may go to him and say, oh, I'm having this really big challenge. And he'll say something like, do what you always do. You're really good at leading, you're really good at connecting with people, collaborate, and you're going to be fine. So that's the mentor who was in the company and now outside of the company. And so, but I mentor a lot of people, and they're not I mentor people in the company and I mentor people outside of the company. I think it's the experience. So, there's a young lady that actually lives in Wisconsin, and I mentored her for 3 years before I ever met her in person. Because I was on a board, and the board came to me and said, hey, we've got this senior female and she's the only female, would you mentor her? And so I've been mentoring her, and it's just using my experience and just sharing my experience to help her, to navigate through her career. And so I have every other Sunday, I have what I call Give Back Sundays. And those are my mentoring days. So I mentor on Sundays. So I just think you need both.
Okay. Wow, that's great. Great advice. Yeah, I love how you said when you have a sponsor. I never thought about that. That's one of those networking and relationships, but it's on a higher level that if they know you, they know your work history, they know you also as a person in the sense that when those opportunities come up, they're the best people that are going to be on your side to help you move up the ladder, get those promotions, and even help you even on a project, or if you have a stumping question and you have no one to turn to, that's who your sponsors and mentors are for.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So, and they don't even have to be senior people, because people will sponsor you. I remember early in my career, how you work on teams, and I've always been in software, always been in product and bringing product to market. And I just remember early in my career, you'd have a team, we'd all be working. And in those days, we had manufacturing operations. And I just remember volunteering a lot for things that people didn't want to do. Like, no one wants to go over to the manufacturing floor and walk through the line and see how the product is made. And I was like, oh, I'll do it. And what happened, even with my peers, they actually became really big supporters. So as I grew my career and some of those people started to report to me, there was never an issue, because it was like, we all worked together, and it didn't matter what my title was, as long as we could collaborate and get the job done. So I think you can have supporters and sponsors, at every level in the company.
Well, I was going to ask you next, and you already started it, was what do you need to do to build up in the company and show that you're wanting to progress? Like you mentioned that you did other things that other people wouldn't want to do. I know for my own self, being an appraiser, we have different new products that came out. I volunteer, like, yeah, I'll be the one to try out these new products to help the companies develop new. And then if work gets slow, they call me up. Or even when I was teaching, I'll try a new product if you don't have it. And this one of those are people that are volunteering. I volunteer to do things that people will notice later on. She's willing to do more. So was that your type of structure when you came in at ground level? I'm going to be noticed and do what it takes, and whatever someone else doesn't want, I'll volunteer and I'll figure it out. What
I
was your
think
method?
I think it was a couple of things. I think it
Okay.
was always being a part of the team. I've
Okay.
always been known as a collaborator, but I would volunteer all the time.
Mhm.
The other thing, for me, and I tell people this all the time that I mentor, you have to make people aware that you want to grow. I'll never forget that I wanted to be a product manager, and there was a product manager role available. Now, this is about being a female of color, right? So I
Right.
went into the division president's office and I was like, hey, I know that job is open. I want you to know that I'd like to apply for that. I think I would do great in that role. And he said to me, we've already have our candidate who happened to be a male because we think he has more potential. So that
Ooh.
was really like, that was one of those things that will stay with me my entire career. And so I made him aware. But then guess what happened? Like 3 years later, the same guy who had a lot of potential was reporting to me. And because, so I did make people aware. I
Mhm.
always said, look, I want to grow. I have a tool in my career toolkit, and that I use with my mentors, and it's called a career map. And what I do with that is like, what is my current role?
Mhm.
And then what is that experience that I want to get in my next role? You're going to always hear me talk about experience. I don't talk about title. I don't talk about compensation. Compensation's important, but that's a personal goal. And I'm very
Mhm.
goal oriented. So I do that, but that's my personal goal. I have never ever chased a title. And so, because I think experience is it. So if I could get the experience, you're going to grow your career. And so that's really what I was doing. It's like, even if it meant going in and saying, hey, I'd like to be on this project. When I was at Xerox, I led the 1984 Olympics for the company. I was
Oh.
really just very junior, but I volunteered.
Mhm.
My boss was leading it. And I said, hey, I'd love to do that job. And he said to me, here we go again. He says to me, well, I'm going to go to Connecticut, which is our headquarters, and I'm going to talk to them and we're going to look for a person to do the job. And while he was gone, I started doing the job
Oh,
because he was
wow.
gone for like a month. And I
Mhm.
just started doing the job. And so when he got back, he's like, well, you're doing the job. I guess we have to give you the job. So you see, I didn't go in, and so I was just like, it was an experience, and just,
You took
and
the
it wasn't one,
initiative.
right. It's the initiative, right? And it's like, I'll just do it. It's like volunteering for the project, whatever I can do to gain more experience and more knowledge. That's really what I did. And I think it's helped me.
Now, do you think your college degree gave you more leverage versus that initiative that I'm going to volunteer, I'm going to find mentors, and that networking and relationship and being that team player? Were those personal
I,
characteristic skills more important?
for me, it was really just the experience. Of course, as you grow up and as you start to grow your career, having a degree is important, right?
Right.
And even you can say, well, Nina, do you have an MBA? Well, I went to school for an MBA for a year, but I didn't get it because I said, wait a minute, I can like be teaching these classes because I
Mm.
had had so much experience at Xerox that it was just like, and oftentimes it's like working people that are teaching the MBA courses. And
Right.
so I just didn't have that, I didn't have that need. And so for me, it was the experience. It really
That's
was the experience. Of course, it helps. I've gone to many executive MBA programs. I've done a lot of training.
mm,
It's all about just learning. I am a learner. I'm an avid reader. I read everything, and I'm always learning. And so, should you have a degree? Absolutely. But for me, it's really been around learning, experience, and just really being true to myself. I'm very goal oriented, but I never compete. That's the other thing. Oftentimes people compete. I don't. I have a goal. I'm striving for that goal. I'm focused on getting that goal. And it's not about me. Anyone that works for me will tell you it's never about me. It's always about we. Because
Now,
I
how
think
many
in a
goals?
company, go ahead.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you, but how many goals do you typically work on in a year? Like, do you have personal and business and career? How many goals do you typically work on in a year?
Wonderful question. So I always have I start with about 10 goals, and I'll tell you that over the years I've narrowed it down. So every year annually, I spend time on my personal goals. And I will tell you now I'm down to about 5 goals a year. And I
Okay.
don't say, and they're mixed. It's personal, it's professional, it's health, all of the things that are important to me. And it is something that I have done for as long as I can remember. And it's just something that I do. So it's about 5. I go in every year, I check them off, and I say, do I want to add any? Sometimes I don't achieve them. And so I'll go back and I'll say, okay, we're going to do this again. And sometimes I achieve them. So it's just something that I've done my entire life.
Oh, and you recommend those. I always heard that most people are more successful when they have goals because they're actually planning out their life. Like you said, you had
Right.
a plan, a career plan, I believe you said you had earlier
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yep. I've always had a plan. I have a career map, that I work on and says, okay, where do I want? Oh, I started that. Here are my experiences. Here are my skills. If I take the next job in 2 years, what are the experiences that I want to gain during that time?
Oh,
So you
wow.
see, I didn't say I want job X or B, A or B. I said I actually want to get new skills. So that's the
Okay.
career map. And I use that map when I'm mentoring individuals.
So you look for the skills and the job potential that you're going to get.
Yes, I do. I
Because
do.
those skills, and actually it's your skills and your experience that's going to climb you higher up the ladder or get you in a
Absolutely.
position where you want to be, like you wanted to be a company to mentor and help people, smaller company to build it up.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any regrets going into business? Because I know you say you started in psychology and then you switched, which is a similar in business. You got to know psychology and your customers, but it's still a big difference between working with the brain and selling to the brain in the sense.
Yeah. I don't have any regrets because, I'm a believer and I just follow God's lead. And I believe that I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do.
Wow.
And yes, being in this field it's just been great for me, actually. Being in business, I've done lots of nonprofit boards, but I'm
Mhm.
on my first software board of a software company, and I've been on it for now almost 3 years. And I love it because being on a board is the exciting thing about it is all I'm doing is mentoring and coaching. I
Oh,
mean, it's literally just that. And it's taking all of my years of experience and just helping a company, as a board member. So yeah. So it's just been learning and growing and learning and growing.
well, I know you said that you believe where you're at because of God. Who was your inspiration? Was it God that inspired you or leads you in certain decisions or moves and from companies?
Absolutely. God is the leader of my life. But I'm very much inspired by my mom. My
Oh,
mom she's an amazing person, but she was also a very young mother. She had me at a very young age. And she didn't, she eventually went to school and took college classes. But, she's just like the most positive person that I know and very kind. And she always said to me, look, you can be anything you want to be.
okay.
So she's just always been an inspiration. And the other thing is that I'm the oldest of 6 children,
Hmm.
and my mom's the oldest of 9 children. And I've always just wanted to be a role model. I just wanted my siblings and my cousins and everyone to know that, look, there is a bigger world out there. We can do and be whatever we want. You have to be focused and go after it. But I've always wanted to be a role model.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, yeah, your mom is your role model. That's one major question I want to know. Who was your role model? Um, we're almost out of time, but I still want to ask you a few more questions. Um, One, what type of characteristics or personality skills do you think you need to be a leader and a woman in leadership? Because I would think, and I'm assuming that maybe some men may not like women in the role or giving them orders.
Yes, yes. Um, so my biggest thing about being a leader is a great leader listens. And I think, it's one of those things that I just so believe in. As a leader, even, over the years in my career, oftentimes I'm the last person to speak in a meeting or in a room. I'm always asking everyone else, like, well, what do you think? What do you think? Because there's always people that are way more smarter than I am. So I think that listening is a critical skill. I also think, Janice, that women listen better. We tend to listen better, more, and we don't have to have the answer. I don't have to have the answer. So for me, listening is really important. Collaborating. I think, being a female and just collaborating with other females, collaborating certainly with men. I've been the only female, in the C-suite, at the executive table for the majority of my career. And so, I'm collaborating. And I said that early in my career by volunteering. So just collaborating. I think the other thing is that I don't really worry about, whether I'm going to win. I worry that we're going to win as a company. And I think people know that. They know that we're a team, and that's really important that we're a team, because if the team wins, we all win. So, I think being a team player. And those are all the characteristics. But the most important thing as a leader in any business, you must deliver results.
Mm.
And so I tell everyone that, like I've been responsible for a P&L most of my career. And look, if I don't make my numbers, I'm probably not going to be in that role very long. And so you really do have to deliver results. You've got to collaborate, work well with people, but ultimately we all have to deliver results. And so, yeah, so that's really what it is.
Now, we have a couple more minutes left. Do you recommend that women still get into business today, now that the world is changing, that companies are closing, moving away in different countries? Is it still something that is a productive career and something that people should get into now? It's not too cluttered or anything like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I mentioned earlier, so I'm the executive sponsor of our company's diversity, equity, and inclusion program, and I'm working on another board where we're doing that. This is our time. I mean, women have to continue to grow. There's tons of opportunities. Certainly, we have to make sure that we reach one, we teach one, we bring them with us, and there are lots of opportunities. When I leave the corporate workplace, I certainly hope that I am replaced by another female, and preferably a female of color. And so there's still tons of opportunity. And look, I'm in technology. There's a lot of opportunity for women in technology. And so, get into science, get into engineering, technology, and math. I mean, those are really great careers, but there's so much that women can do. And look, we're needed in the business world because it's also around diversity of thought. And so we absolutely, so yes, most definitely, please continue to pursue those careers.
Well, that's all the time we have. And I want to thank you, Nina, for coming on the show. She is the president of customer and marketing operations at Enlyte. She gave us wonderful advice on women in leadership. And this is Why Not? Like us on Facebook and YouTube, and we will see you next time. Good night.